You clicked on this video because you already know where to put your hands. You have the map. You have lasted longer. You have even changed the angle. And she is still polite. She does not pull you closer. She does not say, "Don't you dare stop." You are tired of guessing from movies and from some forum at 2 in the morning. Good news. I am going to give you the actual answer. Not opinion, not a new list of spots. What the research and my clinical experience actually show. I am a doctor. I am a woman. And I am not going to waste your time with vague reassurance. Let's go. First, let's name the mistake. How to touch a woman is not a tour you complete. Most of you treat her body like a checklist. Neck, done. Breast, done. Belly, done. Inner thigh, done. Then you arrive between her legs like you earned a stamp. That is how you please a woman on paper. That is not how to arouse a woman in a real nervous system. A nervous system does not get hungry because you visited every street. It gets hungry because something started, and then you had the discipline not to finish the sentence for her. Here is the brutal truth. What women want in bed is not more of your plan. They want to feel you listening with your hands. If your hands already know the ending, she can feel that. She becomes the audience. An audience does not grab your wrist. An audience says, "That was nice." You have heard that word. Nice is the grade you get when you were competent and she never had to want you. Recently, a man came into my office. Let's call him Frank. Frank is 61. He is not lazy. He watched the videos. He told me, "Doc, I do the map now. I go slow. I use lubricant. I last." And she still feels like she is receiving a service. She thanks me. She never pulls me in. I asked him to tell me the last time, in order, without the movie version. He kissed her for a bit. He moved down the list. He kept a steady rhythm, like a man assembling furniture from a diagram. Same pressure, same speed, same polite path. She made encouraging sounds because she likes him. He thought those sounds were hunger. They were manners. I told Frank what I am going to tell you. You do not need a new map. You need a different job. Your job is not to deliver pleasure. Your job is to create a wanting so clear that she closes the distance herself. How to make her want you, in the body, is not charm. It is unfinished contact that she can trust. But here's where it gets interesting because biology is not irrelevant either. Skin is not one instrument. Light, fast contact on the surface can read as tickle, or as noise, or as you being busy. Slow, slightly firmer contact on a wider area tells the nervous system this is safe enough to drop into. Then, later, a smaller, more specific contact can land. If you start specific and fast, you skip the vote. The clitoris is the same story you already know. Clitoral stimulation that is dry, pointed, and in a hurry is not generosity. It is sandpaper with good intentions. Slow sex is not a mood playlist. Slow is how you stop habituation. Habituation is what happens when the brain predicts the next second perfectly and stops paying attention. Same circle, same speed, same pressure, for too long, and she leaves the room without leaving the bed. Variation is not chaos. It is one change at a time. Speed, or pressure, or location. Not all three like you are trying to find a radio station. There is also a simple mechanical fact. A whole palm carries heat and safety. A single fingertip carries information. If you lead with information before safety, many women brace. Bracing is the opposite of how to turn a woman on. A braced pelvis does not pull you closer. It waits for you to be done. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening psychologically, because this is the part nobody addresses. A lot of women over 50, and plenty younger, have been touched by men who were already at the destination. The kiss was a doorway they sprinted through. The neck was a courtesy. The rest was a commute. She learned to manage the night. She learned the face. She learned how to keep you feeling skilled so the evening stayed kind. When you show up with a better map and the same commute energy, she does not suddenly become a different person. She waits to see whether you are actually with her or whether you are performing competence. How to please a woman in bed fails here more than it fails on anatomy. She cannot ask you to keep going if asking would make you fragile or proud or faster. So she stays polite. Polite is self-defense. Anxiety is in your hands too. If you are monitoring yourself, your touch gets even. Even is dead. Even is the truck you are trying to fix. A jeweler does not use the same pressure on every surface. A lumberjack does. You already heard me use that comparison. I am using it again because your hands still have not changed jobs. Frank said he was afraid that if he paused, she would think he was lost. I told him the opposite. A pause on a place that is already working is how her body gets a turn to speak. If you fill every second, she never has to say anything. Then you complain that she never tells you what she wants. You did not leave her a gap to tell you in. Now, practical advice, because I know that's what you came for. Tonight you are going to practice one rule. Touch slower than you think is reasonable, and then slower than that. Half speed. If you think you are already slow, you are probably at the speed of a man who is being careful while still heading somewhere. I want you heading nowhere for a minute at a time. Mouth. Jaw. The place under the ear. Stay. Do not collect the next stamp. How to kiss a woman is not a 4-second receipt you punch so you can leave the mouth and get to work. Kiss her like the mouth is a destination. Then leave it because you want to, not because the script said the next door is due. If she follows your mouth, you just got the first pull. That pull is the whole point of this video. When you feel it, you do not cash it in by racing south. You stay long enough that she has to pull again. Second, whole hand first. Warm, broad, then smaller, not the reverse. On her back, on her waist, on the underside of the breast, on the lower belly. You are announcing, we have time. If your first contact is a pinpoint, her body hears, we are late. Third, match, then lead a little. Feel the pressure she gives you back. If she presses in, you can be slightly firmer. If she goes still, you do not add speed to solve the stillness. You subtract. Lighter or slower, or you pause. One variable. How to satisfy a woman is often the man who stops escalating when the room goes quiet, instead of panicking into a new trick. Fourth, lubricant is still not an insult. If you are going to touch between her legs, you do not arrive dry because you wanted it to feel spontaneous. Spontaneous and abrasive are not the same thing. Pad of the finger. Around before on. You already have that. I will not rebuild the map. I will tell you the part the map cannot do. When she is with you, you do not invent a second technique. You keep the one that made her hips change, and you make it boringly consistent for longer than your pride enjoys. Then you do the thing that creates the ask. Watch this to the very last second without skipping a single word, because the late piece is not a secret zone. It is a gap. Here it is, the unfinished sentence. When something is working, you pause on purpose, not a freeze of fear. A still hand or a still mouth right there for a count of 3. You wait to see whether she closes the distance, whether her hip lifts, whether her hand finds your head or your wrist, whether she makes a sound that is not manners. If she does, you return to exactly what you were doing. You do not upgrade. You do not go faster as a celebration. You do not switch sides because you got excited. You keep going because she asked with her body. That is how she asks you to keep going. Not a speech, a pull. If she does not close the distance, that is data, not humiliation. You change one thing, a little slower, a little broader, back up a door, neck, belly, inner thigh. Then you try the pause again. A woman who never pulls you closer is often a woman who has not been given a pause she can trust. Or she is not in her body tonight, and no map and no gap will drag her there. And you stay kind, and you do not take that as a verdict on your hands. Let me talk about talking, because silence can be presence, and silence can be a test. You do not narrate the tour. You do not say, now I am going to do the thing from the video. You can say, I want to stay here. You can say, tell me if you want this slower. Then you shut up long enough for her to use the invitation. If she says harder, that is a gift. You do harder, not twice as fast. If she says don't stop, you just received the title of this video in real life. You keep the exact contact. Same angle, same speed, same pressure. Maybe 10% firmer. Not a new chapter. You already ruined nights by celebrating too early. Do not do it with your hands. There is a version of this for men who finish fast and a version for men who last forever. If you finish fast, the pause helps you too. Less slide. More of the right stimulation for her. The gap lets you back down from the point of no return without turning into a clenched jaw. If you last forever, hear me. Long, even, mechanical touch is how you become durable and distant. Slow sex does not mean you drone on the same stroke until the clock is impressed. It means each minute contains attention. Lasting longer only helps if those minutes contain the right stimulation and a man who is actually in the room. And listen to the off-limits without taking it personally. After children, after menopause, after a man who grabbed, some places do not want a performance. If she angles away, you move. No debate. No, why don't you like this? How to please a woman includes a no that does not come with a TED Talk. Work the open doors so well that asking for more feels safe. Or never. Never is allowed. Frank thought more technique would create the pull. I sent him home with less. Kiss longer than is comfortable for a man with a plan. Whole hand, half speed. When her breathing changed, pause for 3. Wait. If she moved in, stay on that street. No upgrade. He came back and said the first night she got impatient with him. She put his hand where she wanted it and said, stay. He said he had been waiting years for a review, and what he got was an order. That order is the point. A woman who is telling you to stay is no longer the audience. Tonight, before anyone is naked enough to default to the commute, pick the habit you are going to break. For most of you, it is speed, or it is leaving the mouth too soon, or it is filling every second so she never has to want you. Break one. Not all 3 in a seminar she has to grade. Here is the sequence so it is in your hands, not just in your pride. Start at the mouth and stay until she follows you or until her shoulders drop. Jaw, under the ear, neck. Whole palm on collarbone and the upper chest as if those parts count. Breasts from the underside, around, not a grab. Lower belly until the bowl of the pelvis feels like it belongs to the night. Inner thighs until she is the one closing the distance. Then and only then, between her legs, lubricant, around, then on, never as a race. When something works, pause, count 3, wait for the pull. When the pull comes, you do not cash it in, you keep going. If you go inside, a hand stays in the conversation. If she says don't stop, you treat that as law. If she does not finish, you still did not fail the night if she pulled you closer. You learned this woman's hunger on this night. Tomorrow the weather may change. The men who stay good lovers are not the men with one trick. They are the men whose hands can listen. That is why she will ask you to keep going. Not because you found a hidden button, because you finally stopped finishing the sentence for her. If this helped you see her differently, share it with a man who is still touching like he is fixing a truck. Subscribe to this channel right now. Be sure to hit that like button like a real man. Go down to the comments and tell me the honest one. When she starts to want it, do you stay? Or do you speed up and call it passion? I read them. Apply the pause tonight. Do not announce it. Stay confident. I will see you in the next one.